When we were kids, I promised I'll marry you now. She's a queen demanding I honor my word on a quiet street in a small town where the trees grew tall and the air smelled like cut grass. Two children sat on a porch swing, their feet not quite touching. The ground lily held a smooth river stone in her palm, its surface cool and worn by time. She turned to Ben, her eyes serious even at 7 years old. When we grow up, she said, I want to marry you. Ben blinked, then grinned, his hair messy from running. All day, okay? He said, and I promised to marry you too. They shook hands, then Pinky swore under the warm light of a summer afternoon. Neither knew how heavy that promise would become. 10 years later, Ben stood in a crowded evacuation center. His hands, shoved deep in his pockets, his eyes fixed on the news screen above the room. The image showed a fleet of alien ships hovering over major cities, their shapes unlike anything human engineers had ever designed. Smooth, curved, and glowing with soft, blue light. The announcer spoke in a shaky voice. The alien leader has identified herself as Queen Lily of the Vira Collective and demands an audience with one. Ben Carter. Ben felt the world tilt beneath his feet. Lily, his Lily, the girl who used to braid daisy chains and hide frogs in his lunchbox, was now an alien queen, commanding a force that could end humanity. With a thought, he remembered the day she vanished. No note, no warning, just gone from school one morning. Rumors said her house was empty. Her parents confused and heartbroken. Ben had searched for weeks, asked neighbors, left notes on her porch, but nothing. She was simply gone. Now she was back and she wanted him. Soldiers in black uniforms found him before dawn. They did not speak, just nodded and led him to a waiting transport. Ben did not resist. He owed her that much. At least the ride to the spaceport was silent. The city outside dark and tense, streetlights flickered. People huddled in doorways, their faces pale with fear. Ben stared out the window, wondering if this was how it ended. Not with a bang, but with a childhood promise kept too late. The alien ship waited on the tarmac, its surface shifting like liquid metal. It made no sound yet. Ben felt its presence in his bones as he stepped onto the ramp. A soft hum filled the air. Not loud, but deep enough to vibrate in his chest. The interior glowed with gentle light walls pulsing faintly like a slow heartbeat. He followed a corridor that curved upward until he stood before a wide archway. She waited inside. Lily stood tall, her form wrapped in flowing robes that shimmered like twilight. Her skin held a faint silver sheen. Her eyes glowed violet. But they were still her eyes, still the same eyes that had watched him with trust and laughter on that old porch swing. Ben Carter. She said his name like a silently. He replied, his voice rough. You came, she said, stepping forward. I didn't have much choice, he said, glancing at the armed guards outside, though they had not touched him. I gave you a choice, she said, stopping a few feet away. I could have taken you. I could have burned your cities to ash and dragged you here in chains, but I did not. I asked. I waited. I hoped. Why, Ben asked, why me after all this time? Because, she said, her voice softening. You are the only one who knew me before the stars. You are the only one who saw me as just Lily. Not as a weapon, not as a queen. Just a girl who loved climbing trees and eating too many cookies. Ben swallowed hard memories, flooding back the time she fell off her bike and he carried her home, the time they built a fort in the woods and swore it was their castle. The time she cried when he told her his family was moving away. And she whispered, "I'll wait for you." What happened to you, he asked. She looked away toward a window that showed Earth hanging in the blackness, small and fragile like a blue marble. They found me. She said, when I was 12, a virus scout ship detected a genetic anomaly in my blood. Something ancient, something dormant. They took me, not to hurt me, but to study me, to awaken what was sleeping inside me. At first it was pain, constant and sharp. My body changed faster than I could understand. I grew taller, stronger. My mind expanded until I could see patterns in the stars. I learned their language in days, their history in weeks. She turned back to him, tears glistening in her violet eyes. I tried to come back, Ben, I swear I did. But every time I neared Earth, my vira biology rejected the atmosphere. I aged years and months. My heart nearly gave out 3 times. I had to choose between dying or becoming fully vira. I chose to live. And now you rule them, Bean said. I lead them. She corrected gently. They chose me, because I remembered Earth. Because I carried your promise in my heart like a compass. It kept me human even when my body was not. Ben looked at her, really looked and saw not just the alien queen, but the girl who once shared her last popsicle with him, who drew him pictures of dragons and spaceships, who believed in magic and forever. So what now, he asked. Now, she said, stepping closer. You decide if you will honor your word, not because I demand it, but because you choose to. If you say no, I will leave Earth untouched. I will take my fleet and vanish into the stars and never return. Ben stared at her. Surprised you would do that? Yes, she said, because a promise forced is no promise at all. I want your... Yes, not. Your fierce silence filled the room, thick and heavy. Bean thought of his parents, his friends, the billions of lives hanging in the balance, but more than that, he thought of Lily alone among stars for years, holding on to a memory of a boy on a porch swing. All right, he said finally. I will honor my word. A breath she had been holding escaped her shoulders, relaxing for the first time in years. Thank you, she whispered. What happens next, he asked. You stay with me. She said, not as a prisoner, but as my consort, my partner. You will help me understand humanity again. You will remind me of kindness and cookies and dandelion wishes. Ben smiled faintly. You still remember dandelions. I remember everything she said. In the weeks that followed, Ben adjusted to life aboard the Vira flagship. The ship responded to, thought not Button's food, appeared when he was hungry. Rooms reshaped to his comfort, but it was Lily who made it bearable. She walked with him through gardens grown from starlight, showed him how to read the patterns in the ship. Walls taught him the soft songs her people sang to newborn stars. Slowly he began to see the world through her eyes, not as conqueror and conquered, but as two halves of a whole. She listened when he spoke of Earth's flaws, but also its beauty, its art, its music, its stubborn hope. One evening they stood on the observation deck watching Earth spin below. Do you ever miss it, she asked. Sometimes, he said, but I don't miss it more than I miss you. And you are right here. She leaned into him, her head resting on his shoulder. I was so afraid you would hate me, she admitted. Why would I hate you? Ben asked. Because I changed, because I left, because I came back with ships and demands. You came back with a choice, he said, and that means everything. Time passed. Seasons turned on Earth, though none marked them. Aboard the ship, Ben and Lily built something new. Not just a political alliance, but a life woven from old memories and new dreams. Then one morning Lily took his hand and led him to a chamber filled with soft light. In the center floated a small, glowing orb, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. What is that, Ben asked her. Child, she said softly. The first of a new kind, human and Vira together. Ben stared in awe, then turned to her, eyes wide with wonder and fear. Are you sure, he asked. She smiled, the same smile she gave him on that porch swing so many years ago. Yes, she said, because you kept your promise and now we get to make new ones. Ben reached out and took her hand, their fingers intertwining like they did as children under a sky full of fireflies. And so the boy who promised to marry a girl became the man who stood beside a queen, not because he had to, but because he remembered her laughter, her kindness, her heart. And in the end, that was enough to save a world. The child grew fast inside the glowing chamber, not in months but in weeks, her form shifting between human softness and Vira light. Lily watched her every day, her hand pressed gently against the energy field that held their daughter safe. Ben stood beside her, silent most times, but always there. His presence a quiet anchor in the storm of change. Earth remained calm below. No more threats, no more fleets. Just a fragile peace held together by a promise made long ago. But peace is never simple, and whispers began to stir in the shadows of human government. Some called Ben a traitor, others a savior. Most just feared what they did not understand, and what they feared most was the child. On the ship, Lily felt the tension like a hum beneath the floor. She turned to Ben one evening, her violet eyes clouded with worry. They do not trust us, she said. They think our daughter will be a weapon. She is just a baby. Ben said, his voice firm to them. She is power. They cannot control. Lily replied, and power, like that scares them. Ben knew she was right. He had seen the news feeds, the secret broadcasts, the coded messages between military leaders. They spoke of containment, of neutralization, of worst-case scenarios. He clenched his fists, but said nothing. Fear makes people cruel, he thought. Then the message came not from Earth, but from deep space. A Vira warlord named Kale, who had once challenged Lily for the throne, now returned with a splinter fleet. His ships dark and jagged like broken bones. He, broadcast across all channels, give us the hybrid child or we will burn your precious Earth to cinders. Lily stood tall in the command chamber. Her robes flowing like liquid night, she did not flinch, but Ben saw the tremor in her hand. She wants her, not for power but for proof, she whispered to Ben. Proof that the old bloodline can be reborn in pure form. He will drain her essence to fuel his own ascension. We cannot let that happen, Ben said. We will not. She replied, but we cannot fight him alone. His fleet outnumbers ours 3-1. Ben thought hard. Then remembered something his father once told him about old Earth tactics, about using weakness as strength. What if we do not fight him? He said. What if we let him think he has won? Lily looked at him curious. Explained, she said. Ben laid out a plan, simple but risky. They would send a decoy ship carrying a false energy signature mimicking the child while the real one stayed hidden aboard their flagship. They would lure Kale into a narrow asteroid belt near Neptune where his larger ships would struggle to maneuver, then strike fast and silent. It is dangerous, Lily said. So is doing nothing. Ben replied. She studied his face. The boy who once promised to marry her was now a man willing to risk everything. For their child, she nodded. We do it your way. Preparations began in secret. The decoy ship launched under cover of a solar flare, its signal pulsing like a heartbeat. Kale took the bait. His fleet veered course toward the outer system. Lily and Ben waited. Aboard the flagship, their daughter safe in a hidden chamber lined with human blankets and Vira lullabies. 3 days passed. Then the signal from the decoy vanished. He has taken it. Lily said, her voice tight. Now he will come for the real one, Ben said, but he will not find her. The battle began not with explosions, but with silence. Kale's ships entered the asteroid field slow and arrogant. Lily's fleet waited in the shadows, cloaked by bending light as the enemy moved deeper into the maze she gave. The signal Vira fighters darted from behind rocks, swift as comets, their weapons not fire, but pulses of gravity that twisted metal like paper. Kale's ships buckled, confused and off balance. Then the flagship struck not with cannons but with a focused, resonance wave tuned to the frequency of Vira neural cores. It did not destroy. It disrupted. Kale's command ship went dark. Its crew, stunned, Lily boarded it alone. Ben wanted to follow, but she stopped him. This is my burden, she said. If I do not face him myself, the others will never see me as true. Queen, Ben nodded, though his heart pounded. Inside the enemy ship, Kale waited in the throne room, his form scarred and sharp, his eyes burning red with rage. You hide behind a human now, Lily? He sneered. I stand beside him, she corrected. Not behind. He spat on the floor, a black liquid that sizzled where it landed. You have grown weak, soft, your blood diluted by earth filth. My blood remembers both worlds, she said. And that makes me stronger. Kale lunged, faster than thought, but Lily was ready. She raised her hand not to strike, but to speak an old word in the first tongue of the Vira. A word of binding light erupted from her palm, wrapping around Kale, freezing him mid-air. You forget, she said softly. I was not just chosen, I was awakened, and I carry the memory of every Vira who ever lived. She turned to his captains, who watched in stunned silence. Your warlord sought power through fear. I offer you peace through unity. Return to the collective, or leave, but do not threaten my child again. They bowed one by one. Kale was imprisoned not in a cell, but in stasis. His mind locked in a loop of his own failures, a fate worse than death, for one so proud. Back aboard the flagship, Ben held their daughter, for the first time her skin warm and slightly glowing. Her eyes open, already watching him with quiet curiosity. She has your nose, Lily said, smiling. And your eyes, Ben replied. In the days that followed, Earth sent a message, not from the military, but from a group of scientists and teachers. They asked for cooperation. Not control, they wanted to learn to understand, to build bridges, not walls. Lily agreed, but only with Ben as the human liaison. He accepted not for glory, but because he believed in The world they were making, a world where a girl could be both human and alien and still be loved. Months turned into a year. Their daughter, named Maya, after Ben's grandmother, grew quickly, not just in body but in mind. She spoke 2 languages by 6 months, understood star charts by 9, laughed at human jokes and Vira riddles with equal joy. But new trouble came not from warlords or governments, but from within. Maya began having dreams. Dreams of a place neither Earth nor Vira. Space, a third world hidden between dimensions where the original ancestors of both species once lived. The dreams grew stronger until she woke crying, saying the door is opening, and no one is watching. Lily and Ben listened carefully, then checked the ship's deep archives. They found a reference to the Veil Realm. A myth most thought was just a story, but the data matched Maya's descriptions exactly. Someone or something is trying to cross over. Lily said, her voice low, and if they succeed, Ben added, they might not be friendly. They decided to investigate not with weapons but with knowledge. Maya would guide them. Her mind now tuned to frequencies no adult could perceive. She sat in the center of the observation deck, her small hands tracing shapes in the air, showing them coordinates not in space but in possibility. The ship folded reality around itself, slipping between layers of existence. The journey was strange. Time stretched and bent. Colors had sounds. Sounds had weight. Bean held Lily's hand the whole way. They arrived in a place of soft mist and floating islands. Trees made of crystal sang in a wind that carried memories. Maya pointed to a distant spire where a dark shape moved. It is not a person, she whispered. It is a hunger lily. Understood instantly, a void entity feeding on forgotten timelines. It had sensed Maya's unique energy and sought to consume her, to break into their reality. We cannot fight it, she said. It is not alive in the way we are. Then we give it something else, Ben said, an idea forming. He asked Maya to project not fear but joy, not power but love. She closed her eyes and sent out a wave of pure memory. Her first steps, her parents' laughter, the taste of strawberries, the warmth of a blanket on a cold night. The dark shape paused, then shrank, confused. It had never encountered such a thing. Joy had no shape, no edge, no weakness to exploit. It could not feed on it. Slowly it retreated back into the deeper mist. The Veil Realm stabilized, the door closed. They returned home changed. Maya no longer had the dreams, but she carried a new calm, a knowing beyond her years on Earth. People began to change, too slowly at first, then faster. Children drew pictures of violet-eyed queens and starships. Parents told stories of the man who kept his promise. Schools taught about unity, not just survival. Ben and Lily watched from orbit, sometimes visiting in disguise, walking hand in hand through parks where no one recognized them. Just a man, a woman, and a little girl with glowing eyes eating ice cream under the sun. One evening, as they stood on the deck watching Earth turn below, Lily leaned her head on Ben's shoulder. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Staying here with Min. Never, he said. You were always worth the promise, and in that quiet moment between stars and soil, between human heart and alien soul, the old vow lived not as a duty but as a choice made every single day with love. Maya turned 3 by Earth years, though. Her mind held the depth of someone far older. She spoke in full sentences by 1, played chess with Vira elders by 2. And now she asked questions that made even Lily pause. Why do humans fear what they do, not understand? She asked one morning while floating small toys in midair with her mind. Ben sat beside her on the soft floor of their quarters, his back against a wall that pulsed gently like a slow breath. Because fear is easier than learning, he said. Maya frowned, then nodded as if storing the answer away for later. Lily watched from the doorway, her heart full but heavy. She had seen the reports from Earth again. Unrest was growing, not from governments this time, but from ordinary people. Some formed groups calling themselves Pure Earth. They claimed the hybrid child was the beginning of the end of humanity. They burned effigies of Lily and called Ben a traitor to his species. She did not tell Ben everything. She did not want to burden him, but he saw it in her eyes, the strain of holding 2 worlds together with her bare hands. One night Maya woke screaming. Not from a nightmare, but from a vision. She saw cities burning. Not from bombs, but from within. Neighbors turning on neighbors. Friends becoming enemies, all because of fear of her. Ben held her tight. whispering, "It is not real. It is not real." But Lily knew better. The vision was a warning. The next day she called a council not just of Vira commanders but of human representatives. 2 scientists, teachers, artists, even a few former soldiers who had laid down their arms. She invited them aboard, not as guests, but as partners. The meeting took place in a circular chamber where light bent to show both Earth skies and Vira nebulae. Side by side, Lily stood in the center. Maya in her arms. "We are not here to rule you," she said. "We are here to protect what we all love." An old woman from Kansas stood, her voice shaking but clear. "My grandson says he dreams of your daughter. He says she smiles at him in his sleep and tells him not to be afraid." "Is that true?" Maya looked at her and nodded. "Yes, I tell all children not to be afraid." The room fell silent. Then someone began to cry, not from sadness but from relief. From that day a new network, formed not of armies but of stories. Humans shared tales of kindness, of hope, of children who spoke of stars with wonder, not fear. Vira shared their songs, their histories, their dreams of peace. The 2 cultures began to weave together like threads, in a single cloth, but not everyone wanted peace. Deep in the ruins of an old military bunker, a man named Garrett Cole gathered the last of the pure Earth fighters. He had once been a general. Now he was a ghost with a mission he believed Maya was the key to alien control, and that eliminating her would free humanity. He had spent years building a weapon not of metal, but of sound, a frequency tuned to disrupt hybrid biology. It would not kill her. He claimed it would only silence her. So she could not influence others. His followers believed him. They launched their attack not from space but from within, using stolen Vira tech hidden inside human cargo ships. They slipped past defenses and landed near the orbital nursery where Maya sometimes played among floating gardens. Ben was with her that day, teaching her how to grow earth flowers in zero gravity when the alarm sounded not loud but urgent. A soft chime that meant danger was close. Lily appeared in an instant, her form shimmering. "With protective energy, get her to the core chamber," she told Ben. "I will hold them." "No," Ben said, "I stay with you. You must protect her." His voice broke, but he obeyed, scooping Maya into his arms and running through corridors that shifted to help him behind them. Lily faced Garrett and his men, not with weapons but with words. "Why do you hate her so much?" she asked. "Because she is not one of us." He spat. "She is a mistake. She is my daughter," Lily said, "and she loves your world more than you do." He raised the device, a small black box humming with cruel energy. Lily did not move. She let the frequency wash over her, knowing it would hurt but hoping it would not reach Ben and Maya. Pain tore through her, like glass in her veins. She fell to her knees but did not cry out. Garrett stepped closer, ready to press the final switch when a small voice stopped him. "Why are you sad?" He turned. Maya stood there, Ben behind her, his face pale with fear, but his stance firm. "Why are you sad?" she asked again, her eyes wide and glowing softly. Garrett froze. The question struck him like a blow. He had not been asked that in years, not since his own daughter died in the early panic years before the Vira even spoke to Earth. "I am not sad," he said, but his voice cracked. "You are," she said. "You miss someone." Tears filled his eyes. He thought of his little girl who loved butterflies, who believed in fairies, who would be Maya's age now. Maya walked forward slowly, her hand outstretched, not to attack, but to comfort. Lily watched from the floor, her strength fading, but her heart full. Garrett looked at the child, then at the device in his hand, and for the first time in years, he saw not a threat, but a little girl who saw his pain. He dropped the device. It shattered on the floor. The hum died. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Lily rose slowly, her body healing already. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "You do not have to be sorry. Just choose kindness now." In the days that followed, Garrett did not vanish. He stayed. He helped rebuild trust. He spoke to crowds not as a general but as a father who had lost his way and found it again. Maya visited him often, bringing drawings of butterflies and stars on Earth. The pure Earth movement faded not by force but by understanding. People saw that fear had been fed to them like poison, and now they chose to drink something sweeter. Time moved on. Maya began to show new abilities, not just mind powers but healing. She could soothe wounds with a touch, calm storms with a song once she stood on the observation deck and sang a Vira lullaby while below a hurricane turned away from a coastal city. As if listening, scientists studied her not to dissect, but to learn. She welcomed them, taught them how human emotion and Vira energy could blend to create something new, a language of feeling that crossed species. Ben watched her with pride and sometimes with fear. He knew her path would not be easy, but he also knew she would never walk it alone. Lily grew stronger too. Not just as a queen, but as a mother, she learned to bake cookies from Ben's old recipes. She wore human clothes sometimes just to feel normal. She even planted a small garden on the ship with real soil and real earth seeds. One evening, the three of them sat together on a balcony that overlooked both the stars and a live feed of Earth. Maya asleep in Ben's lap, her breathing soft and even. "You think we did the right thing?" Lily asked. Bringing her daughter into this world, Ben looked at her, then at the sleeping child, then at the blue planet turning slowly below. "Yes," he said, "because she is not just our hope, she is everyone's." Lily smiled and leaned into him the way she had as a girl on that old porch. Swing years later, when Maya was older, she would travel to Earth not as a symbol but as a student. She would sit in classrooms, learn human history, walk through forests and feel the rain on her face. She would speak to children not as a queen, but as a friend. And when they asked her how she stayed so kind, in a world that once feared her, she would smile and say, "My parents taught me that promises are not chains, they are seeds. And if you water them with love, they grow into something that can hold up the sky." Ben and Lily never sought glory. They never wanted statues or songs. They only wanted a world where their daughter could be herself without fear. And in the quiet hum of their shared life between stars and soil, they found it not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. The promise made by two children long ago had not just been kept, it had become the foundation of a new world built not on power, but on love. And that was the most human thing of all. Maya turned 6 and the changes came not all at once, but like tides slow. Then sudden she began to hear thoughts, not as words, but as colors, feelings as music. She tried to hide it at first, afraid it would scare others. But Lily knew her daughter too well. "You are not broken, Maya," she said one night after finding her curled beneath her floating bed. "You are a bridge." Ben sat beside them, his hand resting on Maya's small shoulder. "Bridges are strong," he added. "They hold worlds together." Still Maya struggled. She saw too much, felt too deeply. Once during a live feed from a school in Tokyo, she sensed a boy's loneliness so sharp it made her cry in the middle of dinner. Lily and Ben held her until the ache passed. They knew she could not carry this alone, so they built her a sanctuary, not a room but a living space grown from both Vera biocrystal and earthwood, with windows that showed real sky and walls that hummed with calming frequencies. Maya called it the quiet place, and there she learned to listen without drowning. Meanwhile, on Earth, a new generation rose, children who had never known war with the stars. They drew pictures of violet-eyed queens in their notebooks, played games where they rescued alien friends from black holes, and dreamed of flying ships that looked like seashells. But old fears never die. They only sleep. Deep in the ice fields of Antarctica, a forgotten research station stirred, buried under decades of snow. It had been shut down after the first contact, but someone had kept its systems alive, powered by geothermal vents and stubborn hated her, Elena Voss. Once a top xenobiologist had watched Lily's rise with growing dread. She believed hybridization was not evolution, but contamination, and that Maya was the first step in the quiet replacement of humanity. She had spent 20 years building a counter to the hybrid gene, not a weapon, but a cure. A retrovirus that would rewrite Maya's DNA back to pure human form. She called it clarity. Her followers were few but loyal former scientists, engineers, medics, all convinced they were saving mankind from slow erasure. They launched their plan not with ships, but with silence, slipping a drone into the orbital nursery disguised as a maintenance bot. It carried the virus in a single drop of liquid no bigger than a raindrop. Maya found it first, not by sight, but by feeling something in the air tasted wrong, like metal in honey. She told Ben, who alerted Lily. The drone was captured before it could release its payload, but the damage was already done. The idea had spread through hidden networks. People began to whisper, What if the child is not a gift but a mistake? What if we are losing ourselves? Lily faced the doubt, not with anger, but with openness. She invited Elena to the ship not as a prisoner but as a guest. "You want to erase my daughter," Elena said when they met in the quiet place. "I want to save humanity," she replied, her voice cold but her hands trembling. Maya sat between them, small but steady. "You think I am stealing something," she said. "But I am giving you more." Elena looked at her. Really looked and saw not an invader but a child with freckles and messy hair who had just skinned her knee that morning. Lily spoke softly. "My daughter carries both our pasts. She does not replace yours, she adds to it." Elena said nothing for a long time, then she asked, "May I hold her?" Maya walked to her without fear and took her hand. In that touch something broke inside Elena. Not her resolve, but her certainty. She felt the warmth, the pulse, the human heartbeat beneath the glow. "He was wrong," she whispered. "You were afraid," Lily said. And fearless Elena stayed, not to destroy but to study. Not to change Maya, but to understand her. She worked with Human and Vira, scientists side by side, and in time she became one of Maya's strongest protectors. The retrovirus was not destroyed but repurposed, turned into a tool to help humans with genetic illness. A true gift born from fear. Peace deepened, but peace is never. Still one day Maya woke with a new dream. Not of danger but of distance. She saw a signal not from the Veil realm or deep space, but from the edge of the known galaxy. A faint pulse like a heartbeat calling. Someone is out there, she told her parents, and someone like Malili and Ben knew they could not ignore it. The Vera archives spoke of the first exodus, a group of ancestors who left long ago seeking a place where hybrid life could bloom without fear. They vanished without a trace. Now they were. Calling back preparations began not for war but for journey. The flagship was refitted with human comforts and Vira engines. Ben packed earth seeds. Lily gathered star maps. Maya chose only one toy, a stuffed rabbit named Cosmos. They left Earth not in secret but with celebration. Crowds gathered in cities, waving not in fear but in hope. Children held up drawings of the ship as it rose into the sky. The voyage took months through nebulae that sang and asteroid fields that glittered like shattered glass. Maya spent hours at the observation window talking to the stars as if they answered. Then they found it, a world not on any map, wrapped in golden clouds with two suns and oceans that glowed at night. The signal led them to a city built into living trees, its towers spiraling toward the sky. Its people tall with eyes like lilies but softer. Their skin marked with patterns that shifted with emotion. They were the lost ones, the first hybrids. Their leader, a woman named Syra, came forward. Her voice like wind through leaves. "We felt her birth," Syra said, nodding to Maya. "We waited for her to find us." Maya stepped forward, not shy but sure. "You are like me. We are all like you." Syra smiled. For weeks they shared stories the lost ones had built, a society where human emotion and Vira logic lived in balance. They healed with song, grew food from light, and taught their young to dream. In color, Maya thrived among them, learning their ways, but never forgetting her own. Ben and Lily watched her. With pride and a quiet ache, they knew this place was part of her destiny. One evening, Sierra asked them to stay. "You belong here too," she said. "Your love made her possible." Lily looked at Ben, then at Earth far behind them, then at their daughter dancing with new friends under twin suns. "We cannot leave our world," she said, "but we can visit often." And so a new path opened, not an end, but a connection. The lost world became a sister to Earth. Ships began to travel between them, not with weapons, but with seeds, with songs, with students. Maya would spend part of each year on the Golden World learning from Sierra, and part on Earth teaching others how to listen with their hearts. Ben and Lily returned home, changed not by distance, but by trust they had let their daughter grow beyond them, and in doing so had grown themselves. On Earth, people no longer spoke of aliens or humans, but of the family who kept their promise and changed everything. Years later, when Maya stood before a crowd of children from both worlds, she did not speak of power or destiny. She spoke of a boy and a girl on a porch swing who believed in pinky promises. That is where it all began. She said, not with ships or stars, but with two hearts that chose to trust, and in every child who listened, hope took root. Not as a dream, but as a choice. Ben and Lily watched from the back of the room. hands clasped not as queen and consort but as partners who had walked a long road together. The promise had not just been kept, it had multiplied, spread like dandelion seeds on the wind, touching lives they would never meet. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. Maya turned 10 and the universe began to listen. Not with ears, but with silence, the kind that comes before a storm. She felt it first in her dreams, not as fear, but as absence, a place where no life had ever been, and none ever would be. It called to her not with words, but with hunger. Lily knew the signs. She had read the old Vira texts. The Voidwalkers were not beings, but gaps in existence, places where reality had torn and never healed. They drifted between galaxies, feeding on strong emotions, especially hope, because hope was bright and loud and easy to find. Maya was the brightest thing in 10,000 light years. Ben saw the change in his daughter. She stopped laughing as much, her eyes distant. Even when she played, she still loved her. Parents still hugged them every night, but part of her mind was always listening. We have to protect her, Lily said one evening after Maya fell asleep, tracing constellations on her ceiling with her finger. How Ben asked, "We cannot lock her away. It is not a secret, she is a light." "Then we teach her to shield herself," Lily replied. "Not by hiding, but by choosing when to shine." They sought help. Not from warriors, but from the quiet ones, the dream weavers of the golden world, the memory keepers of Earth, the old monks who sat in silence for years and heard the world breathe. Maya learned to wrap her thoughts in layers, not walls but veils, soft and shifting like mist. She practiced in the quiet place with Ben reading her stories and Lily humming old Vera lullabies. The void could not feed on what it could not grasp, but it was patient. It sent echoes, not ships, just whispers in the dark corners of human minds. Sudden sadness without cause, fear that bloomed for no reason. People began to feel empty, for no reason they could not explain. Scientists called it cosmic fatigue. Priests called it spiritual drought. But Maya knew the truth. It is getting closer. She told her parents one morning, her voice small but steady. "We will face it together." Lily said, "Not with weapons," Ben added, "but with us." They gathered the ones who understood, not armies but a circle of hearts, teachers, healers, artists, children who still believed in magic. They met on Earth in a field under open sky. Maya at the center. The void came, not with sound but with cold. A cold that had no temperature, just the feeling of being forgotten. Maya closed her eyes and did not fight it. She opened herself instead, not to the hunger, but to the memory of being loved. She thought of Ben teaching her to ride a bike, Lily singing her to sleep, the taste of strawberries, the sound of rain, the warmth of a hand in hers. And she shared it, not as a shout, but as a gift. A soft wave of pure human Vira golden world love flowing out from her into the circle and beyond. The void recoiled, not because it was hurt, but because it could not understand. Love has no shape, no edge, no end. It cannot be consumed, only joined, and the void was alone. It shrank back into the tear it came from, and the edges sealed, not with force but with peace. The cold lifted, the sadness faded. People looked at each other and remembered how to smile. Afterward, Maya was tired but calm. She slept for 2 days straight. Ben and Lily took turns watching her, holding her hand, whispering that she was safe. When she woke, she asked for pancakes. Life returned to its rhythm, but deeper, richer, like a song played twice with more feeling. The second time, Maya continued her studies, not just of stars and genes, but of people. She visited villages where no ship had ever landed, sat with elders who remembered the time before the sky opened. Listened to children who dreamed of flying with her. She never used her gifts to control, only to connect in the golden world. Syra began to age, not quickly, but naturally. Her time among the first hybrids was ending. She called Maya to her one evening under the twin sun. "You will lead after me," Syra said. "Not because you are strong, but because you remember both sides." Maya shook her head. "I am not ready. You were ready the day you chose kindness over fear." Syra smiled. "You do not need to be perfect, only present back on Earth." Ben and Lily watched their daughter grow into her role, not as a ruler but as a guide. She helped build schools that taught human history and Vira philosophy side by side. She worked with farmers to grow crops that fed both species. She even started a festival of lights where people from all worlds gathered to share stories under the stars. But the greatest test came not from outside but from within. Maya began to feel a pull not toward any place but toward a choice. She could stay on Earth with her parents or go to the Golden World to learn from Syra before she passed. It broke her heart to choose. Lily held her one night. As tears fell silently down her cheeks, "You do not have to pick one world," she said. "You carry both inside you wherever you go." Ben kissed her forehead and whispered, "Home is not a place. It is the people who love you." So Maya went to the Golden World. Not to leave but to grow. Ben and Lily stayed on Earth. Not to hold on but to let go. They visited often the ship now. A familiar sight in both skies. Maya would run to them every time, her arms wide. Her laugh bright as ever. Syra passed peacefully under. The twin suns. Her last words to Maya were simple. "Be kind even when it is hard." Maya wept, then stood tall and led the morning songs that healed the land. Years flowed like rivers. Maya became a bridge not just between species but between generations. She taught young Vira to plant earth flowers and human children to read starlight. Ben grew older, his hair gray, his steps slower, but his eyes still lit up when Maya walked into the room. Lily remained ageless, but her heart aged with love. Every wrinkle in her soul a mark of joy or worry or pride. One day Maya brought them to the quiet place now grown into a grove with real trees and soft grass. She sat between them like she did as a child. "I have something to tell you," she said. They waited. "I am going farther," she said, "beyond the Golden World, beyond the known stars. There are whispers of other hybrids, other promises made in other worlds. I must find them." Lily did not cry. She had known this day would come. Ben took his daughter's hand and squeezed. "You will be safe," he said. "Not always," she replied, "but I will be true." They did not try to stop her. The day she left, the sky filled with ships not for war but for farewell, Earth vessels, Golden World gliders, Vira scouts, all flying together in a dance of light. Maya stood on the ramp of her new ship, small but strong, her eyes holding the wisdom of stars and the softness of a child who once believed in pinky promises. "I will come back," she said. "We will be here," Lily replied. Ben just nodded his throat, too full for words. As her ship rose into the sky, a single dandelion seed floated up from the field below, caught in the wind, riding the light toward the stars. And in that moment, Ben and Lily knew their promise had not ended. It had flown. They walked, home hand in hand under a sky full of hope. And every night they looked up and smiled, knowing somewhere out there their daughter was keeping promises of her own. The universe was vast, but love was vaster. And that was enough.